There is power behind every story we carry within. Every tragedy, no, yes, laugh, victory. And every testimony that is incubated within our souls have power. The power to transform, from tragedy to crown, from obstacle to opportunity, and all the moments in between make us wiser. Watch Candid Conversations with Charisa for impactful, unheard moments that will certainly spark your power and inner truth to shift, heal, and restore your life. It's time to get real, uncover, unlock, unpack, set free, and increase the dialogue to change a life. We all start somewhere and end in places of destiny. Get ready for the long-awaited Candid Conversations with Charisa.
Not settling and knowing what you want. And it's funny you ask that, because I find that a lot of people settle. And we're not going to talk about relationships. I don't want to talk about settling in relationships for a husband or for a mate. That's a different story. But I want to just talk about settling in life and knowing what you want. And a lot of knowing what you want is very connected to knowing why you are and what you're doing, and why what you want is more aligned with what you're doing. And so for instance, I'm a person who, and I think I think not settling has a lot to do with values and value system, belief system, because what you settle for is very connected to what you value and what you believe in and what you're aligned with. So I'm someone who I value excellence. I value authority. I value loyalty. So in someone that values excellence, I know what I want. I know the way I want something to go, the way I want something to look. Now, mind you, sometimes I have to be careful, because it could be borderlining control. But I know what I want, and I know what I want. I know how I want things to look, how I want things to come up, what result I want. Not perfection, but I value excellence. And because I value excellence, I get to ask for that, and I get to pull for that, and I get to only want that. So when I know that to get a certain product or to get a certain result requires a certain level of work or competency or a certain level of excellence, then that's what I want. And I don't want, when I say I don't want nothing less, I don't want nothing less. Like, I'm one of those persons who, if we go to a restaurant and my husband just roll his eye, because he already know I'm gonna look at a menu, I know exactly what I want, and I know what I don't want. And no one is going to tell me you cannot have this. No one is gonna say, because this is like this, you can't have this. Like, I believe in, let the higher of the highest tell me, you can't have this. The answer is no, this is what we can't do. And very rarely on a restaurant menu that's gonna be the case. So if I want a particular dish and I want it made this way and I want this side, but it come with a different side, and I get to say that, then I get to say, I don't like this, can I have this? And I would be that person that would ask questions all day long, that would ask if I could have it. And by the time you bring me my meal, I am the happiest woman alive, because it is exactly what I want when I look at it. My husband can look at me, he can look at the waiter, and he can roll his eye, because he already know what's about to happen. But I said, you go ahead and settle for this little piece of chicken right here, but yet you want something else. No, and so I'm that way. So sometimes even I find myself having to give grace. Give grace to, and sacrifice and adjusting when what I want may not be fulfilled by the capacity available. So maybe someone don't have the capacity to give me what I want. Maybe a entity or a business don't have the capacity to give me what I want. It doesn't change the fact that I know what I want. It doesn't change the fact that I don't have to settle. There have been many situations where I've had to make concessions, and I agree, as leaders you have to make the adjustment. But as a leader, you get to know what you want, you get to ask for what you want, and then what I've had to do, I've realized that, okay, someone may not be able to give you what you want now, but in giving them grace to learn, to get the information, to get the knowledge, to understand you, maybe it requires some stretching. So I'm one of those leaders who, because I know what I want, and because I'm settling, I tend to stretch a lot of people that come in contact with me. There are so many team members or people who are part of my team who I met them at a certain capacity. After we talk about what I want, we talk about how I want to look, we talk about, man, can you do this? And they'll say to me, no, I never do that before. I'll be like, okay, no problem. They'll be like, no, wait, So there's a stretching that happens for them to give me what I want. So not only do now I get what I want, but they also increase their capacity. And it requires me giving them the grace to grow from one capacity to another. Because I myself have never been at the capacity that I am now. And as leaders, we have to recognize. So I've recognized in a lot of my friends, a lot of my team members, that where they are does not mean that they don't have the potential to be great. You just need to pull it out of them. So in not settling, which is why I say don't settle, because me not settling doesn't mean that I have to stay at their level. I get to want what I want, and I get to encourage them to, okay, so that's what you need. Let me figure this out. Okay, fine. I give you time to figure that out. And by the time we get back together, they've figured out what they want to do. Their capacity has grown, and I get what I want. And then I'm also at someone's level where my capacity ain't there, but they're giving me the grace. But I think it's important that we do at some point get to know what we want. I talk to my husband a lot. I talk to him a lot about, honey, what you want? He want this, and say that, ask for that, express yourself, communicate exactly what you want. And he's big on just giving concessions, and it is what it is. And no, you never know what someone can do. You never know what someone is willing to do. You never know what someone is capable of doing until you ask, or until you put it forth, or until you communicate. This is what I want, this is what I need, this is what I like. Allow them to say no. Like, the worst that anyone can say is no. And the best thing that anyone can say is yes. But I must say it, because what's never going to be said is, but I didn't know that's how she operates, or I didn't know she wanted that, or I didn't know I can do that. So I'm a push, and I'm a push. And my husband will tell you, when he met me, he and I met with him helping me with something, with a project. And from then, I knew exactly what I want. I knew what I wanted to look like. I knew what I wanted to say. And it was like a video we were working on. I knew where I wanted to cut. And this man said to me, he said, you're hard to work for, because I know exactly what I want. And I didn't want perfection, but I wanted excellence. I didn't want to not have what I wanted. I wanted what I wanted. And we didn't know. And we Googled, we asked some other people if they knew how to do it, and we couldn't get it. But let me tell you something. By the end of that day, I can show you the video now. I have exactly the product that I wanted. And it's because I wasn't settling. Now, it took 3-4 hours longer, but I knew exactly what I wanted. And so he met me, being not so much a slave driver. He just lazy, but he was like, don't tell him I said that. Don't tell him I said that. And with some people, you are going to get that friction. Actually, that's a perfect example of, like, he was giving me, like, I can remember the friction I was getting, and people are going to give you friction. But what people don't understand is, without that friction, without that uncomfortability, without them even saying, I don't know, no one grows. So if everybody settled, nobody would grow. There's a reason why I'm the way I am. It's because my father knew what he wanted. My father knew the potential I had. And then he didn't settle for mediocre from me. And so everything he did, he stretched and stretched. Threw me on stage, stretched me. Gave me a position, stretch me, like he was stretching me. I remember being uncomfortable. I remember the friction being there. But all of that is when you're in that place of growth. So no, I don't get to have all of this authority and have all of this power, and then you want me to what? Just settle? No, 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 no. The balance between not settling and sacrifice. And I think I mentioned grace before, because there is I'm not going to settle for something because I want excellence. Forget perfection. I want excellence. But there's a sacrifice that I also have to make at times because the capacity is not going to be available. And so when I think about the balance between the two, I can possibly give three ideas that we can help with balance. One is grace. Grace for me, understanding that the person or the place or the project or the time may just don't have the capacity to give me what I want. Because I do know what I want. I know what I don't want. And then I'm just not going to settle for anything. But I get to even have grace with myself in understanding that there are times maybe what you want may not be needed at this time at the level that you want it. The other one is growth. Giving others the time to grow and understanding that the capacity I need for the excellence that I want just needs time to grow. Somebody just may need time to grow in their information. They may need time to grow in their implementation of what they know. There may be a business is just too small at the moment and it can't give me what I want, so they need time to grow. Remembering that there was a point when I wasn't at this place where I'm at now, where I knew exactly what I want and my capacity is this. And I was growing. And understanding that with that growing comes a little friction, may come a little uncomfortability. So I know sometimes that even when I'm giving grace to my husband, for instance, to adjust and to grow, it don't always feel good on either parts, but that grace and growth minimizes some of the frustration and some of the aggravation and increases the patience that's needed for the adjustments to be made. And then next to grace and growth is gratitude. I'm learning that no matter where somebody is, they're always progressing. And if they're progressing, they are winning. And if they are winning, they deserve to be celebrated and they deserve to be thanked. And so I realize that the more I say thank you wherever somebody else is, the more I get, the more they're open, because you want people to be open. You want organizations, you want systems, like you want anything to be open to elevation, to moving from one level to the next, to getting better, to development, to evolving. And sometimes just saying thank you, or sometimes saying, I know we didn't get it this time, but what you did so far was good. Like, it was great. Next time, let's do this. They'll hear that over the slave driver mentality that we were talking about earlier. So grace, growth, and gratitude are some of the ways that I've been getting the balance that I need, so that I'm still happy even when I'm unable to get what I don't want when I want it. It doesn't mean that I will ever settle, though. It just means that right now I may not be able to get it, but the next time, you watch. I've had grace with myself. I've had grace with those around me. I have seen the growth. I've encouraged the growth, and I've said thank you enough. And it's like, man, I'll do anything. And so I have people to this point who would do anything to give me what I want. And it's because there's no pounding. It's because, not my husband, it's because there's no pounding. It's because there's no, you're not doing right and what you're doing. No, it's because I give them the grace to grow. I give them the grace to increase their capacity. And once I do that, then they give me the grace and they give me the gratitude to tell me, man, thank you so much for your patience. Thank you so much for allowing me to grow. Thank you so much for not throwing me away. Thank you so much for, and I say, you know what, hey, we in this together. You grow in, I grow in, I'm making you grow, you're making me grow. So the balance needs to be there. Absolutely. How can you identify growth in yourself and in others? And as I mentioned earlier, growth is not in the results. Growth is not in the progress, in the product. Growth is always going to be in the journey, in the progress, whichever word you prefer. Like, that's where growth is for me, which is why I say if you are always moving and you are always progressing, you are always growing. Sometimes we are expecting growth to look a certain way. We're expecting it to go from, I was making $5 yesterday, and then all of a sudden 2 weeks from now I'm making 50,000. That's not growth. Like, that's not realistic growth. Growth could be, I was making $5 yesterday and I gained 10 hours of my time tomorrow. Like, that's growth. No one said it has to look a certain way. Or they're looking for, I was driving a certain car 1 year and the next year now I'm driving something 5 times more. Like, that's not growth. Growth to me is one day you had no idea that you were angry at something that happened in your past, and the next day you are aware that the reason why you can't move forward is because you haven't settled that anger. Like, that's identifying growth. That's self-awareness that you didn't have from one day or 1 week to the next is growth, and it deserves to be celebrated. It deserves to be recognized, and then say, where do I go from here? So we don't have to think about growth as something big. We don't even have to think about growth as something visible or tangible. Growth can literally just be an awareness. It can be a change in feeling. One day, this thing always made me angry or always made me sad. And then you got to a point where you're able to reframe it. It's the same event. You just frame it differently. Therefore, you think about it differently, and you no longer get sad. You just realize, you know what? That was this experience in my life, and now I've learned some lessons. Like, that's growth. Like, growth for me was being aware that the reason why I couldn't go home for 7 years after my parents passed, the growth wasn't being able to go home eventually. The growth was recognizing that the reason why I couldn't go home was because there was a fear to how it would make me feel. Like, that was growth. And that was intangible, internal growth. No one will know that. But I recognize that over time, and I get to say, man, that was major for me. Because before, I just wouldn't say anything. So it's important that we allow ourselves grace. Like, grace is so, I just love grace, because sometimes grace and patience go together. And some of us can be so impatient with ourselves. Therefore, we are impatient with others. And when we can be patient with our own growth, when we can have grace with ourselves to say, even if growth is, I don't know. Growth is even being able to say to yourself and to someone else, man, I don't know how to do that, but I'll figure it out. Like, that's growth. Versus, you ain't know. Somebody asks you, and instead of you just say, I just don't know, you're now trying to scurry and figure out how you're going to do this, and you're stepping out of your lane, and now you're trying to no, you get to say, no, I don't know how to do that, but give me a moment. Like, that's growth. And that's progress. And especially when you're developing yourself and then you're serving others. Recognizing and identifying that growth doesn't have to be big, doesn't have to be tangible, doesn't have to be seen. The best growth for me happens internally in our minds. What goes on in our value system, in our belief systems. Sometimes growth is having a belief that's not serving you. And then something happens and you change that belief to a belief that's saying, you know what, that wasn't serving me before. If I want to be at this level, in this area of my life, then I have to adjust that belief. That acknowledgement is growth. But we don't look at that as growth because I didn't make the change yet. I'm still at a level 2, but I want to be at a level 5. No. Let's deal with the fact that you even acknowledge that this belief that I had before is not going to give me the level 5 that I want. I have to change this belief so I can go from level 2 to level 5. That acknowledgement is growth.